Welcome to Women in Paint. Whether your paint story is dripless or an old school mix of project management, business ownership, or modern estimation, the stories of women in paint are now part of the industry's rising success. We'll educate, encourage, and promote diversity and gender equality by giving you a behind-the-scenes look at our proven skills, business acumen, and driving force that propels anyone to find meaningful opportunities and a career path that challenges lives through paint. Now let's welcome your host, Michael Cheney.
Welcome to the show, and thanks for joining us today. We are talking all about sales. Let me first say I am Michael Cheney, the owner of No Drip Painting, where we are changing lives through paint. And I've got my buddy on with me, Dan Street. He is a master at sales. He's got 20 plus years. He's worked for some of the companies that we know and love. Dan, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Michael. Looking forward to today's conversation.
All right, so this is all about sales, and let me first say, in the painting world and the world of painting, you've got a lot of folks like me that might have started out as a painter and then became a business owner. I've done sales within this business, not really outside of this business, but I've fought my way through it. I've got a sales team now, so we're growing. But in our industry, we don't have a lot of guidelines. We don't have a lot of experience sometimes. And so, selling a painting job requires someone to be able to connect with people, be able to close the deal. And that's the kind of stuff that we're going to talk about. So if we talk high level, if you're just going to throw out some maybe characteristics to me of what makes a good salesperson, what should people like me be looking for to have on my team where I have the confidence that, look, if I can train them in our systems and our processes, they're going to be able to nail it. What characteristics would you say a good sales rep has?
Yeah, it's funny that's where we started today. I just had lunch with a connection of mine yesterday, and we talked about training and onboarding for a lion's share of the conversation. I think we sat for 2 or 3 hours. The biggest thing I would say, the biggest characteristic trait that you want to look for is someone that's coachable and moldable. This job, sales, is daunting, and I know we're going to talk about that quite a bit. You need somebody that is hungry, someone that's trainable, that's willing to take the advice and the guidance from others, whether it's contemporaries or the business owner, like you said, or even an outside person such as myself who can help them. The person I sat with yesterday is probably 15, 20 years younger than me. And he is really killing it with his team. Came on board less than 6 months ago and has completely turned his team around. And they're now one of the top producing teams in the country for the company that he works for. So, it took a lot of upfront work on his end to kind of build things out, but he found the right people as well that are hungry, coachable, and really looking to get after it.
Now, I might have a misconception here, but when I think about hungry, I think about one of the drivers has to be monetary. It has to be a money driver. Do you think, is that true in sales?
To an extent, and I know a lot of my contemporaries don't 100% agree with this. I think there's different ways to incentivize and motivate people. I don't think it's always about throwing money at it. A lot of business owners I found look at salespeople and their employee, staff, production, what have you, as, as a kid, there was always that little monkey that had the symbols that you could put a quarter in the back of, and it would make noises and act for you. And I think a lot of times that you get business owners who look at employees that way. And I don't think it needs to be that way. I don't think you need a quarter or an incentive or a bonus every time. I think some employees honestly just want a good culture. They want to know that their boss or their owner care about them and recognize them as a person. And I think, for example, you guys do a great job of humanizing your people and your staff and just genuinely caring about them. And I think that you don't see a lot of that now. I think there's a lot of value that's provided there, and it doesn't have to be the stereotypical pizza party on a Friday afternoon. I think it's just genuinely caring about your people affect people a lot. Now, does an extra, couple $100 or $1,000 here or there help? Sure, absolutely. But I think for smaller businesses, especially when revenue might be tight and there's not a lot of extra income there, that you can do things that just show that you care, and it doesn't cost anything but time to just sit with some of your employees or your sales guy, your sales team, and just say, hey, what's going on in your life? Knowing your employees' significant others' names, their kids, just following up with them like that, I think pays in spades far more than an extra $1,000. You know what I mean?
Right. No, that's a good reminder. I mean, one of the things that I've struggled with, and I know other folks in the industry have, once you do reach a certain level and you've got some money in the bank, then it's like, well, we want a bonus program. And it's been difficult for us to figure out how to navigate that, how to make it work, right? But it's kind of a good reminder to hear from you that, look, if you don't have the capital, if you're not at a place in the business where you can be incentivizing folks with money, it's just go back to old school habits of like caring about someone.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
So you and I are kind of shooting from the hip here. We didn't have, a real solid plan, but that's okay. You're kind of just letting me firing questions at you. But let's kind of talk about really the idea of how someone like me can build a sales team. And, I'll be the first to admit, I don't have a lot of sales experience. It wasn't my background. The truth is that I've always hated networking. I've kind of hated talking to people too, Dan. But this job, this business that I love so much is really what has gotten me out of my shell. But it's forced me to do sales, and I'm not an expert, and you're going to come on and you're going to help my team be better at sales. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But where do you start with someone like me that doesn't have a strong sales background, but sales is the lifeline of our business? We have to be good at it. Where do we start?
Yeah, I think it starts with just an evaluation of who you already have. Obviously, you hired those people, hopefully because you saw something there as opposed to out of necessity, and it was just the first warm body you came across or the best warm body you came across. Hopefully there's something there that makes them a good part of the team. That's the biggest thing for me. As far as the sales side of things goes, to me, that's all for the most part teachable. Again, I point back to hiring the right people in the right trade of being moldable. It really requires the right people on the team, and that they are willing to take that kind of guidance. So you want to look for people that like to talk, obviously, that are for the most part extroverts. My wife hates taking me to the grocery store because there's always, the bread aisle or whatever. We stop and we're talking to somebody that I know from a project I've worked on or something like that. So it's always a 45-minute, add-on to our grocery store trip because I have to stop and talk to somebody. I always say there's never somebody in the checkout line that I can't make a best friend. So being able to talk to people, because a lot of times you have to carry the conversation with a homeowner if you're, looking at a project with them, because they don't really know. And now there's a stranger in their house that they met 5 minutes ago. And now you're in the master bedroom, the primary bedroom looking through closets and very personal spaces. So you have to be able to bridge that gap very quickly. So you have to carry the conversation. You have to be the one to initiate everything. So you need someone that's really able to talk through that awkwardness of, I don't know you, and I'm standing in your bedroom. You know what I mean?
Totally. And you know what? Let's kind of talk about this from two angles, because when I think about our customers, we've got the homeowners, like you're mentioning, who we've never met in person. Yeah. They might have come through a Google lead, right? They might not even be our A client, who knows? But we meet them in person. We've got that sector, and then we've got our repeat clients, our remodelers, our designers, the folks that you really have to put some time into building a relationship. So if we're talking about homeowners and it's that first meeting, I'm going to tell you what I tell my team to do, and then you tell me if this is a good thing or not.
We'll see if I've got some work to undo when I get there.
That's exactly. You might be having to retrain, undo everything I've done.
Right.
For everything. But like my coaching with my sales folks always starts with, we need to find out why they want to paint, right? Are they painting because they're moving in 2 months? Because if so, then they might not care about the quality of paint. They might be more interested in how fast we can get in there and get out, right? Or is this a young couple that just bought their dream house and they want to raise a family here and they want everything to be perfect. So I that's what I coach to is the first thing is you got to get in there and find out why they want to paint. Am I on target at all, Dan?
Yeah. So, I've been in the industry, like you said, for quite a while, or in sales for quite a while. And the way I approach it when I'm working with homeowners in like a remodeling situation or a painting situation is this your forever home? And that's one of the first questions that I ask when we kind of get down to the brass tacks, because it matters for selections, right?
Yeah.
I've never been a high pressure guy. It just comes down to understanding where they are at, the end user is at within their stage of life, so that you can then, in that point, make professional suggestions based on what answers you get. So, and it's funny because when I ask that question, is this your forever home? I always get this strange look, like I got a horn grown out of my head, because they've never heard that before. Because they're always, and it helps kind of disarm the homeowner as well, because they always have this anxiety. I mean, even you as a business owner, when you go to buy something, you always have that anxiety or that wall up of how are they going to try to hustle me, or how are they going to take advantage of me or upsell me or something like that. And a lot of times I have to disarm that as a sales professional as well, because my main job is to be there to help and educate them the best I can. So whatever decision that they decide to make at the end of the day by contract signing, it's at least an educated decision. Whether they go with me, which hopefully they do, or they go with a competitor, at least I was able to provide value to them, which we'll talk about in a little bit with my follow-up process. It's all the same. It's just on the same vein of providing the right value and educating them. And then if we get to a price objection, we can kind of work through all of that, because I've already built all of this value into our relationship beforehand. So it's asking those smart questions of, is this your forever home? Because that, if it is, then that allows you to steer towards a higher quality product that you're trying to sell, or, an upgraded service or something along those lines. And if it's not, then you kind of know you're in a situation where we have the opportunity here to save some money on their end by going with a product that's priced a little lower, but still get them the service they're looking for.
Totally. And I think it's fair to mention, like, look, you've got a lot of experience in the construction world, which obviously is where the painting industry lives too. And a lot of people get screwed over by contractors all the time. And that's kind of a stigma or stereotype that we have to fight against. So when we go in someone's house, they might have already had a terrible experience. They might have already gotten, in our world, they might have already gotten a couple quotes and never actually received the quote. Right.
Yeah.
So you're right. This idea of, well, we know that we need to build trust right off the bat, but we got some things that we're working against because of previous experiences, or even just these stigmas that are attached to the construction industry.
Yeah. And to kind of pull on that thread a little bit, Michael, you talk about building that trust. I think a lot of that starts with the company, obviously, because of their, whether it's online presence, you mentioned Google ads or those Google leads, Facebook. Homeowners are far more educated now than like our parents were when they would go to buy something. Back in, when I was a kid, my mom had to go to the store to buy something and get that information and get that value. Now homeowners are coming to us in the trade industry and already have a ton of information. In the painting world, they already know what the different sheens are and what kind of looks that they're looking for, that they want. It starts with the company, and then it transitions to the sales rep when they show up to the house. I mean, you don't want somebody showing up that's looking real sloppy and unprofessional. You want someone that's dressed nicely, that carries themselves well, is organized, on time, things like that. In the trade industries where I've been for 10 years now, it's so crazy how low the bar to clear is. And I think I've talked to you about that before.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. The bar to clear is like, do what you say you're going to do and don't look like you're going to hurt my family when I let you into my home.
Right.
And pretty much that gets you far down the road more than other industries. So
oh my gosh. Yeah. Dan, that's I'll tell you just a quick story. Years ago when I was doing an estimate, this just has always stuck with me. I was in the home of these folks, husband and wife, and they just told me about the estimator that just came before me from another company. And they said that he walked around their house with his dip bottle in his hand while he was spitting. And I was like, well, I just leave my dip bottle in the car. I don't bring it in with me. Of course, I'm joking. But the point is like that. You're right. That is a very low bar, and all I really have to do is show up and listen and not carry my dip bottle in, and I probably got the sale.
Yeah. So a friend
Yeah.
of mine has a painting company himself, and smaller company, but it provides for his family, and that's what he's looking for. He's happy with what he has. And when he first launched his business, he was absolutely floored by his competitive quotes when they were on the back of a bar napkin that was not clean, might I add, a back of an envelope from like a previous mail that he had gotten. You know, the $100 printer that he went and bought and stuck in his truck to go do the measure, come back out to his truck, type everything up and print it in 10 minutes, and then walk back up to the homeowner and hand them the estimate or a contract, got him jobs in spades just because he took that extra step to be just a little more professional. And it's sad, but if you're committed to it, which if you're a part of organizations, you know, networking groups and whatnot, obviously you're committed to being a successful business. It's fairly simple to differentiate yourself very, very quickly and very easily.
Yeah. Note to self: no dirty bar napkins.
Yeah, leave those in the car with your dip bottle.
Let's talk about. I'd like to see what your kind of opinion is, because this is like a topic that goes back and forth within the painting industry. How important is it to provide that estimate right there and ask for the sale? And I'll just tell you like some of the different ideas. Or my idea is that you strike when the iron's hot, and we want to try and do everything right then and there. But I've had other folks, you know, say that they've actually think that it hurts their close rate, and they want to spend time thinking through a quote and make sure all the details are there. What do you think from a sales expert's perspective?
Yeah, I think you have to have the right amount of emotional intelligence to feel what's happening. I'm always a face-to-face, the whites of the eyes type of a person, because I can feel the situation. And I think I think there's also another tell there. If you haven't built that quality up yet, it's in the questions that the homeowners ask or the client is asking you, lead time, you know, things like that, where they're talking themselves into it. So I think you have to be smart enough to recognize when you're getting those questions from the homeowners, who's going to be the crew that's doing the job. And, you know, you can kind of point the conversation or direct the conversation that way, to get where you want to be. And then I don't think there's anything wrong with asking for the sale. I think we should always be asking for the sale, especially if you spent that half an hour or 45 minutes, however long that quoting process is, building value and talking about how good the company is and the steps that you guys take and the paying it forward like No Drip does. If you're talking about all of that throughout the conversation and the estimate under the guise of value and educating them on who the team is, that I'm just a part of the team as the salesperson and I'll be the face of this project, then you have our production team and whatnot. I think there's nothing wrong whatsoever with having confidence in your team and in the quality of service that you provide, and then asking for that sale. They called you there for a reason anyway. Right. You have to have confidence that you're the best option that's available.
That's right.
And then in that point, there's nothing wrong whatsoever with asking for the sale.
Yeah. And you know what? This is, I think, a training and coaching point for a lot of folks, because there is this discomfort in asking for the sale.
Yeah.
And like you, we're not high pressure, right? We want to be able to tell people, here's all the value that we offer. We think you'd be a great fit for us. But Dan, tell me, like, give some words, like, how does someone ask for a sale without being pushy, without, how do you get the confidence to do it? What do you say?
Yeah. So a lot of times I see with newer sales reps or untrained and uncomfortable sales reps, it can come down to really they're scared of the price themselves. And what I've taught for years now is the budget doesn't matter to you. It's not your dollars that are being spent. If you're in a really nice house in a great neighborhood, they know it's going to be expensive. So let's say it's an entire home that we're quoting to paint, and it's a $20,000 bill, right? $20,000 is a lot of money for most people to have to come up with, but maybe that homeowner is in a different financial situation where $20,000 is something that they're expecting and have budgeted for, or just have, must be nice, laying around, cushions or something. But you have to take your personal feelings about the ticket amount out of it, because it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It doesn't matter to me if it's $5 or $5 million. It's not my $5 million that I'm spending. And again, if you've put enough value, injected enough value into the conversations leading up to asking for that, then it should be a no-brainer to the homeowner, as long as we're in line as far as budget goes, or as far as their financial situation goes. I mean, if their expectation is $500 and you come back at 25,000, then you've got a real problem. You've got a real bridge gap there that might be tough for most to get through.
Right.
But I think that my favorite closing tactic, I would call it, is the assumptive close. Again, I've spent the last 30, 45, whatever it is, minutes working to this point. We both know, me and the homeowner knows what I'm here to do. I'm here to sell. I'm here to create a transaction, and this is what I'm now going to do. I've spent all of this time showing and telling you why we are so good at what we do, and the care and the effort that we've put in to get to this point. Why would you not go with us? This doesn't make sense. So it's an assumptive close. So here's how much it's going to be. If you can sign here on the iPad, or sign this contract, or this quote that I've penned up here, we can get you on the schedule for whenever the next available date is. Does that date work for you? And then from there, it's just the next step in the selling process. It's not this big grandiose, let's sit down and go through the contract, go here and sign there, and what's your blood type and your social security number, and things like that. It's just the next step that we're going through. So to get you scheduled for the 25th, we need to go ahead and sign here and get the deposit. And then we're just going to move on down the road, because this is just the next step. Again, it takes a professional salesperson to know the close doesn't have to be scary. It shouldn't be. It's just, we do the presentation during the estimate. Here's the close. We're going to sign the contract, and then I'm going to book the job. And that's the end of it. That's how we do it. That's just the next step. Salespeople are so scared. Newer salespeople are so scared to hear a no.
Yeah.
I love to hear a no. No is the second best answer I can get in sales, because at least it's something.
As opposed to the ghost method.
Or I need to compare this to 2 other quotes. You get salespeople who are so scared to get a no.
Yeah.
And for years now, I've said it's the second best answer I can get. The worst answer is I don't know.
That's so true. And I don't think we think of it like that. But at least if someone says no, you don't maybe necessarily have to follow up, at least in the same way that you might with someone that says, I don't know, right?
A lot of people think that it's like no and then a period, when it's really no and a comma. Because there's a reason they're saying no definitively. Yeah, there's a reason. So now we need to pivot and start handling objections a little differently. Okay, you know what? That makes complete sense. You told me no. Obviously, I haven't provided enough information to you to provide enough value in the services that we offer to make that number make sense. What is it about that number that doesn't make sense? Or is it something I need to explain to you a little more about our services, or why we are different than down the street painting company?
Right.
It allows you to then unpack that. No isn't a scary answer. Listen, I heard no all through my high school dating career, so I've heard it for years now, right? So it just gives you the chance to kind of unpack that a little bit more. And it's not this big, scary answer. It doesn't have to be. It shouldn't be, because it allows you that chance to have that back and forth with the homeowner or your client, not aggressively. It's because you take the ownership of that. And obviously, I didn't do something right to provide and build enough value. What is it that I need to talk through? What do we need to talk through? What do I need to answer for that would make you feel a little more comfortable?
And you know what? So you're talking about value, and this has been something that I've really been working on as I'm already planning for 2025, which I can't believe I'm saying that. But I think my company offers a lot of value. However, I think there's room to offer more. Okay. So I've really been thinking about this topic of value. So I guess the first thing is recognizing that a lot of folks that listen to this are probably the business owner. Maybe you are in the sales team, maybe you're both. But it is important that the business does have value and offers things to the customer where, the idea is that you want to set the customer up where you're giving all this value that it's a no-brainer that they want to go with your price, even if it's higher. And that's exactly what I'm working on now. But also to what you're saying is that when you can have all this value and your team understands it, your team understands the value, is confident in the value, then when you get to that closing piece and someone says no, and then comma, here's the reason, it allows your team to speak to the reason in a confident manner. And maybe it is that they didn't explain something fully, but now they can come back and they kind of get a second chance at it.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it allows you to circle the conversation back to a place where the sales professional is now in control of the conversation again, because you build up to that where you say as much as you can. And a lot of times you say too much, and then you wait to hear that yes or no. And then you don't have control anymore. The homeowner now has control of the conversation. So when you have that no comma, and then you unpack that a little bit, it allows you as the sales professional to take that conversation back over and then provide the right kind of value. I always say it, I look at it as arrows in a quiver. You know, there's a ton of different things that I can talk about and highlight for the company that I'm working for. But if I sit and talk about the Paint It Forward program that you guys have, that might not land in the right place where I want it to. I don't know why it would, but it may not land and be valuable to that homeowner. So I need to have 10 or 12 or 15 other arrows in my quiver that I can then use to answer for that. And then if it does come down to just brass tacks and it's just the dollars that don't make sense, then it's a conversation about, well, where do you see of everything we've talked about? Where is that value? Where do you see the value? And if we're, again, in my previous scenario, we're at $20,000 and the homeowner says they're at 10, then I might, lean towards, if you've got a contractor that would do it for 10, I'd be very careful. I would be looking at the Better Business Bureau and Angie's List and things like that. And I would be very concerned about that. And if they don't end up going with you, at least you've provided enough value and kept the company's reputation and your own personal reputation in check and in a good place. I mean, sometimes homeowners can be unrealistic, and by sometimes I mean most. But and to your point earlier about talking confidently about all the value that the company has to offer, it also starts to come out as passionate too, which is what we know as a business owner, that you're in a great position when they're not like attacking the homeowner, but they're almost they're defending the company and their reputation so passionately because they embody it and believe it themselves. Yeah. And that's really the hardest place to get to. What we talked about before about ownership and feeling like they're cared for, the employees are cared for and things like that. They really have to drink the Kool-Aid per se.
Man, that's a good point, because I'll tell you what, I think one reason I did well with the sales aspect when I didn't really have any sales experience was because my passion came through, because I love this business so much. So you're absolutely right. If you can instill that passion in your team because they fully believe in what you're doing, man, you're going to have one heck of a sales team. Yeah. Since we're kind of talking about, I guess rebuttals and customers being on the fence, what do you say to someone that says, you know what, I'm getting multiple quotes, so I'll get back to you? What does it look like with that? And should a follow-up process look like?
Yeah. So when that happens, I like to find out some timelines, right? Because as a sales professional, I spend a lot of my time on the phone or in person. If it's a remodeler or a builder that I'm working, I'm stopping by the job sites while I'm driving or sitting in a parking lot, waiting for an appointment. I'm on the phone a lot. It just allows you to understand, again, you're pulling that thread to understand where the homeowners are at. If they're not going to be doing anything for 3 or 4 or 5 months, then you can set that out a little bit, and you can manage some expectations of your own on how you should follow up with that homeowner. If the homeowner says, I had an appointment yesterday, I had you guys today and somebody else tomorrow, and by Friday, my wife and I are going to sit down, or my husband and I are going to sit down, and we're going to make a decision this weekend, and by Monday we're going to know. Then if it were me, and in that scenario, I'm calling not tomorrow because that's when the next guy's coming in. I'm going to call the day after. Hey, I know you had that appointment yesterday. Did any other questions come up, or did they present something that maybe I left off of my quote, or something we need to talk through, or that I can answer for? Because it allows me to get some immediate feedback on what if competition is throwing shade on my backyard that I can kind of hear about and know how to answer, again, pulling another arrow out of my quiver of how I can kind of manage that, because I'm almost positive nobody's going to follow up the way that I do. And as long as I can stay top of mind to whether it's a builder or a homeowner, if I can stay top of mind, that most times will allow me to win the job.
Since we're talking about follow-ups, let's stay on that. And then we're going to talk about building relationships in your book of business, which is one of the things I love that you talk about.
Yeah.
What do you do if you have a team that doesn't want to call people and follow up? They just want to send the text message or the email.
So I hate text and email. This will make you money.
Yeah.
Pick it up and use it. It will make you money from a parking lot. I was stuck in traffic yesterday because of something. I don't even know why. And I had a fire job. Something crazy happened and we had some problems and I handled it from a traffic jam. All from the phone. It's just, I called people I didn't even need to call. There was a situation at a job site. I needed to get a hold of the project manager who was in the field. I talked with him, and then I called my contact at the office, the assistant general manager of the company, and just gave him a recap. He had already heard it from his PM, but to hear it from me allows him to know that we've handled it. I'm on top of it, and I'm already dealing with the problem. And it's been handled and there's no concerns. And it allows me that chance again to go through with him, even though he's already heard it from his PM, of what we have done to mitigate this problem and how we're addressing it. And that it just allows me to build more value there. So any chance I get to build value, because in the, dealing with builders, it's a long-term relationship. I've always said, and I think I've told you this, Michael, I'm not worried about the next 30 minutes of a transaction. I'm worried about the next 30 years of a relationship. So just those phone calls and those touch points to just let them know, whether it's good or bad, that it's handled, really helps build that relationship as well.
Yeah. And, it's like, I kind of feel like the email and the text messaging is the easy way out, especially since a lot of our programs can automate that.
Yeah.
And look, when you get an automated message, you can tell, right? You just can. And so you're right. There's something, I'm going to say, special. And even, it's the things that a lot of people don't want to do that are the things that you need to do to be successful. And making the phone call is one of them. Let's talk about your book of business. As you know, a good portion of the work we get is from our repeat clients, meaning our designers, our remodelers. They're all folks that you have to build relationships with. Talk about your book of business and how you build that out, and this idea of not thinking about the next 3 minutes, but the next 30 years. What does that really mean in the context of your book of business?
Yeah. So I have always, in the 20 years I've been in sales, I learned this very early on. In the 10 years I've been in the trades and builder sales, anytime I get a phone number, I make sure that I keep, or a business card, I make sure I keep that card. I've got a binder in my home office of every business card I've ever been given. I think I got Fred Flintstone's in there as well. But it really allows me to just always be able to keep in touch with people. Even if it's a protected account and one of my contemporaries is selling them and things like that, it still allows me to have that point of contact to reach out to them should I need to. You never know when somebody's going to need a referral or something goes sideways on a project and they get upset and they just need someone to kind of vent to or talk to. It allows me to always have that point of contact with that person. So I'm really good about my follow-up at the beginning of a sale. I always follow back with that person through the build process or the painting process or whatever the service I've sold through that process. And then I like to follow through with them during that. And then I like to follow back up with them afterwards, because then I'm looking and asking for referrals or Google reviews. I'm looking for other people that I can help, because that is how I get my book of business to be worth so much. I could go to anybody in this industry and I could hand them my cell phone or ask them, and I have, name a builder in Columbus, Ohio, and I can pull up their phone number. I could pull up their project manager's phone number. I could pull up their interior designer's phone number. My book of business is millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of value, because, again, I'm a professional and I'm organized enough to know that my value comes with the relationships that I build and the people that I know. So, and all of that is kept in my book, my book of business, my contact list in my phone. So that's why that is so important to me, because I'm only worth as much as business I can bring to an employer. So that is my lifeline.
And I think it's important to mention that book of business travels with you. You might be working somewhere right now And in 2 years, you might make a different move. And that book of business is what gives you value to a new employer, even, right?
Yep.
Or to
Absolutely.
start your own business, or
Yeah.
who knows what the heck you want to do, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
The other thing that you're good at, Dan, and I know that's because I experienced it, is sending thank you cards. And we had. I don't even remember I don't even remember why you sent me the thank you card, but I certainly remember the thank you card. You sent it to my office. Talk about that. Are there any extra special touches, or why? Why do you do that? Talk a little bit about that special
Yeah.
touch.
I do it because I mean it, first of all. And then second of all, it is a little self-serving, if I'm being honest, because it's just part of that follow-up / follow through process, right? You would have gotten that thank you card a handful of days after we had sat down and met. And that's intentional. I always wait, a couple of days afterwards, depending on the situation, because I want to make sure you remember my name down the road. So if I, if you and I sit down and have a business conversation, I'm going to send you a thank you card 2 or 3 days afterwards, and you're going to get that a day or two after that, because I want you to remember my name. If you being a really big, a business owner and really busy, and you're getting pulled in 100 different directions, right? I want you to remember that we had that conversation, and I wasn't trying to sell you anything. It was just to make that connection, network, and things like that. And again, it's genuine because I know how valuable your time as a business owner is, so that you took that time and carved it out. For me, it's just a way to show appreciation, and it's the professional and the right thing to do, honestly.
Yeah.
And again, that bar is so low to clear in our industry that taking the 2 minutes to handwrite a thank you note and mail it off speaks volumes. I mean, you still remember that now. So,
Yeah.
It just shows that does it take time and effort? Yes. But if you're organized and a professional, you make it work. You find the time to do things like that.
Yes, absolutely. So what do you do? What does someone like me do? What does a sales manager do if you have people on your team and they're saying to you, to the boss, I haven't had time to do follow-ups and call people. I haven't had time to send thank you notes. This idea of I haven't had time. What is the response to that?
Yeah, I think, again, from an ownership or management level, standpoint, I think it comes down to just showing that you really care. Let's carve out some time in both of our calendars and sit down for 15, 30 minutes, whatever it is. And let's really look at what your day looks like. Are you organized, or do you come in with, your purse and your briefcase and your bags or whatever, and then everything just gets thrown on the desk, and you've got 1,100 different Post-it notes all over your table or your desk, or are you structured? Are you organized? Every night at 8:00, my calendar dings to prep for the next day. Whether I'm out doing something, that gets done before I go to bed at night. I'm looking through my calendar for the next day to make sure I've got everything printed that I need, that my file folders are all put together, that I'm organized, and then I'm ready, so that then when I get up the next morning, I go through my morning routine, and then I hit the office or I hit a job site right out of the gate, and I'm already prepped because I took that 10, 15 minutes the night before to make sure that I'm ready. So it's just finding the time to do it. Matter of fact, I remember I wrote your thank you card sitting at a Jersey Mike's while I was eating one day, because that's just what you have to do sometimes to stay professional and stay organized. If you don't have the time in the next 2 or 3 days to send a thank you card,
you figure it out.
You need to look at your time management skills in itself. But if it's a priority and you make it a priority, you find a way to do it.
Yeah. And so is it fair to say, now we can't compare everyone to you because I know you'll take calls at 12 p.m., 12 a.m., 1 a.m.
Don't tell my wife.
Is it fair to say, are sales folks working around the clock? Are they, if a customer's emailing on Sunday, are they responding? What is the real expectation of someone in sales?
Yeah, I think it comes down to your culture at the company, right? If ownership or management expects that, then I think that's something that the salesperson either has to jump on board with or not. And if not, then that's a different conversation, obviously, that you have to have. And that, along with lack of performance, is the biggest reasons for attrition, right? But I think the culture side of it is certainly controllable, more so than the performance, right? You can put processes in place, of course, to kind of mitigate lack of performance. But I think the culture is really what drives, is that the right answer or not? My wife and I had a night at home last night, and she gets pretty antsy sometimes about my phone dinging at 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock at night. So we carve out some time every so often where this is a no phone night, and that was last night. I had some prep stuff that I needed to do for today, so I took care of that. Phones all went away, laptops went away. I took my Apple Watch off, and then we sat and watched TV together with no phones around. I missed a couple of text messages from some customers, took care of it this morning. Everything was fine. There were nothing crazy, happened or that I missed. But again, once you build that value with your customers, they know that you'll answer when you can, and when you can't, you'll get back to them as soon as you can. And it all comes back to that value and how you build and value the relationships that you build.
That's right. And being organized and having a plan, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Dan, I mean, I could literally stay on here for another 40 minutes and continue to ask questions. So you might have to come back and join me at some point. But listen, you're going to be working with my team, and I'm super excited about it. If someone wants to get in touch with you, has some questions, maybe wants to work with you, see what you're offering, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so the two easiest ways, a lot of people think I'm crazy when I do this on podcasts, but I'll give out my cell phone number as well. My email address is below my name here, dan.street34@gmail.com. I'm still working on building out my company's website, so I apologize for not having that done yet. But also my cell phone number that'll ring directly to me. You feel free to give me a call or shoot me a text. I'd be more than happy to help anybody out and work on how we can improve things with your company. My cell phone number is 614-378-4042. That rings directly to me.
No prank calls or dirty pics.
And I don't know. Coast, so remember time zones.
All right, Dan, listen, thank you for joining me. You are a wealth of knowledge, and we will do this again soon. And this is just a reminder to anybody listening. We've got the Women in Paint event in October in Hollywood Beach, Florida. You're definitely not going to want to miss that one. We're going to have more sales stuff there. We've got some sales experts coming in. It's not going to be Dan, though, because it's a women-only event. But join us there if you can, and we will definitely hear more from Dan, and we will see everyone next time.
Thanks, Michael. I appreciate it.